Okay, just for my own correction of spelling and everything, state your first and last name for me and then spell both.
Noah MacMillan, Noahmacmillan.
Perfect. Okay, for the rest of the time, you just talk straight to me.
Okay.
Let's start by telling me the actual first step in how this all came to be. What was the first step, and just tell me the story.
Well, so Sarah from Schlafly reached out to me and told me that they were looking for an artist for this year's Art Outside Artist Series beer, and was wondering if I'd be interested in doing it. And I was totally excited to do it. So the first thing is we all sat down with Sarah and Will and some of the brewing team, and I was mainly just a fly on the wall at that meeting, just sort of listening to the brewers sort of spitball ideas about things that they've been working on, things that they would like an opportunity to try, things that they might not normally get an opportunity to do, but this would be an opportunity to sort of try something crazy. And so I'd never been a part of a conversation like that, so it was really fun for me to just sort of sit back and listen and try to take notes and think about how some of those ideas might be translated into visuals. And then they sort of went back and started doing their work and trying different, concoctions and mixtures and seeing what worked and what didn't. And meanwhile, we on the sort of visual side, Sarah and Will and myself were all working on just sort of trying to come up with ideas, trying to take things that we'd heard and thinking about how those might translate into visual ideas. And so one of the big ideas that came up was this idea of sort of alchemy, like all of these different concepts and mixtures that they were talking about. There was this sort of magical quality to it all, and so that was one of our first directions. And then when they came back with something that was pretty close to a finished beer, we decided, well, it was sort of a Kentucky mule. It was ginger and lime and bourbon barrels in this golden ale. And so at first we were thinking, well, does this change what we were thinking visually? Should we change up our whole thing? But then we figured we could actually maybe combine those two ideas into something that would be new and kind of cool. And so thus was born Dr. Kentucky's Curious Concoction. So it was trying to create this sort of character of this witch doctor with the head of a mule, and was coming up with his beer out of his lair, his cabinet of curiosities. So all of the sort of design decisions, the colors came from the recipe. It's gold and green coming from limes and ginger, and brown coming from bourbon barrels. So we tried to sort of let their creative process dictate our creative process and lead us to something we wouldn't have come up with.
Now, I'm going to hand you this.
Sure.
And let's just look at it together.
Sure.
And imagine that I'm going to be shooting this. And so let's just like start on this and just walk around. You kind of just did it, but walk around the clockwise, telling me what each thing is and what it means.
Yeah, okay.
And actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you to move a little closer to the camera and just talk into that.
Okay.
So just start me off, I guess, the first, wherever you want to start.
Okay. So the idea of the name, batch number 40,004, comes from the area code in Kentucky where bourbon is made. And so we wanted to sort of give a nod to that without making it so clearly this is about bourbon, because it's about a lot of other things. And so that's the name that comes from that. The idea is that this is Dr. Kentucky. He's this sort of crazed alchemist, and this is his laboratory where he's making this mixture. And so you see he has multiple hands here. He's stirring and he's pouring and he's tasting all at the same time. And it's this sort of crazy inferno of a laboratory. And so a lot of the sort of reference images I was looking for from this were sort of early medical diagrams and early astrology and just sort of crazy out there stuff. And so some of the little visual elements are sort of pulled from pulled from that sort of language. So there's sort of little symbols and numerals that don't necessarily correspond to everything. Although over on the side we created these runes which actually were about the process of making beer and the idea of a Kentucky mule. So there's one that has the state of Kentucky with little sort of miniature icons representing bourbon and ginger and lime as that cocktail, and then there's a separate one which is more about the process of brewing. So that has water and hops and barley. And the idea is that those two ideas are coming together to create this beer, and trying to do it in this sort of old-fashioned numerology kind of a way. So that's where that all comes from, and then this whole sort of wordy thing, trying to sort of borrow from the language of like snake oil salesman.
Yep.
And early,
That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah, that's
that traveling salesman.
well, good. That's exactly what it was trying to be. So that's sort of where we came up with it all, and there's definitely sort of inspiration from sort of religious imagery and cult imagery and witchcraft and all this kind of stuff. And so we were just trying to pull this all together and come up with something new. Great.
The last thing I want to do is just, we're not going to use this. I'll shoot that in a minute.
Okay.
I'd like to just walk through in about 1 minute. Just get me through this.
Yeah.
And then we'll end at the bottom.
Well, maybe
Okay. However best.
Thank you so much. Let me know if you need anything. Don't bother.